Okay, so today we are going to be doing another one of my favorites, non-favorites for the first half of the year. Today, it is all about favorite series. So a couple of quick notes that I want to point out before we actually do get everything underway. First up, I realized when I was compiling all of my favorite series that I don't have a completed series because we're only halfway through the year. I'm really happy to do favorites and non-favorites for the first half of the year, but I kind of had to tweak this video a little bit because I haven't completed any. So we're going to start off with some shoutouts, and then I'm going to count down my top 5 favorite of the remaining series that are left. So let's get right into it. My first shout out goes to Meg Cabot's Princess Diaries. This is volume 1, this is volume 2. I gave volume 1 4 stars, I gave volume 2 4 stars. My sister, after finding out that I purchased this book, then bought the next 3 for me, including this one. But by the time I got to the end of this one, I really wasn't enjoying it anymore, so I had a chat with my sister. She said, if I'm not enjoying them, then don't read them anymore, and I completely agree with that. So I ended up DNFing the series. But the Animorphs series, this is Animorphs book number 1, The Invasion, Animorphs book number 2, The Visitor. They are by K.A. Applegate. These are a middle grade sci-fi series. My goal is to read the first 5 this year and then go on from there. The Goosebumps series, the first published book in the series, which is Welcome to Deadhouse. These books in this series are by R.L. Stine. This is the only book I've read in this series so far this year. I also have the plan to read the first 5 of these books, and I will do that. I actually have most of them either on me now or they're on the way, so I definitely have a commitment for that. Now we're going to get on to the official rankings. These are in order of preference, in number 1 being my favorite series I'm reading so far, and number 5 being my least favorite series I'm reading so far. So let's get right into it. Coming in at number 5 is the Keeper of the Lost City series by Shannon Messenger. This is a middle grade fantasy series. The series revolves around a girl whose name is Sophie, who starts off being human, but feels that there is more to her than meets the eye. Turns out she is right, and in book 1, someone comes to let her know what she is, and then she goes to an unseen world and learns a bit more about who she is. Star ratings: book number 1, 5 stars, book number 2, 4 stars, and book number 3, 4 stars. Okay, so here's the deal. The Suzanne Collins Curse. The Suzanne Collins Curse is when you capture lightning in a bottle with something that happens in the first book in your series, and then somewhere along the way you decide to smash that lightning you captured in a bottle and throw the shards away in the trash can and write something completely different. So Shannon Messenger, unfortunately, she did fall to the Suzanne Collins Curse, because I can say this much without it being a spoiler. As I said in book 1, Sophie finds out she's not human, she goes to another world, goes to a school to learn more about who she is. Great. In book 2, she spends a little bit of time at school, but not really much at all, and in book 3, she hardly is at school ever. And this is where Shannon Messenger was hit with that Suzanne Collins curse, because for me, what I loved about book 1 was Sophie going to school. Sophie does a number of other things that I do really love and appreciate in this series, but because I was just waiting for her to go back to school in book 2, and then it took too long and it didn't happen often enough, in book 3 I was even more waiting for her to go back to school, and again it just didn't happen at all often enough. So this is a DNF series. Coming in at number 3 is the Caravel series. We have Caravel, which is book number 1, Legendary, which is book number 2. The premise of this series is that we are following, in this book we follow one sister, in this book we follow another. There are 2 sisters who at the beginning of this book are being treated absolutely horribly psychologically by their father. One of the girls receives a letter from the Caravel master. Caravel is part circus, part carnival with fantasy elements, letting her know that he is inviting her, her sister, and a +1 to come along and take part in a game that he is doing. Caravel is kind of like fantasy meets The Amazing Race, in that you basically find a clue at the beginning, and then that clue leads you to the next thing you need to do. You finish that, you get your next clue, your next clue, your next clue, your next clue. It's just the stakes are extremely high in this series because the ultimate goal that you need to get to by solving all of the clues is something you need to get to quickly, because if you don't, disastrous results will occur, so you need to run. I gave book number 1 5 stars. I gave book number 2 2 stars, and I'll explain why. I loved the game in book number 1. What I loved about this book was that it was a plot-driven book. Then enter into book number 2, where we have a character-driven book, and it is hardly focused on the game at all. Yes, my friends, it is sad to say that Stephanie Garber definitely fell to the Suzanne Collins curse, so I've decided to not continue on with this series, and Finale is a book that I'm just not going to read, because the game isn't even in Finale. Coming in at number 4 is Pretty Little Liars by Sarah Shepard. Okay, let's go through star ratings first, because I'm holding a ton of books here. So, book 1, 4 stars. Book 2, 4 stars. Book 3, 5 stars. Book 4, 4 stars. And book 5, which starts era 2, 4 stars. So all of them received 4 stars except for book number 3. I'm going to hold up book 1 to explain the premise to you. We're following 4 characters. 5 characters, 5 high school girlfriends, end up having a sleepover at one of the girls' houses. The next morning, one of the girls, the queen bee of the group, is missing. The remaining 4 girls end up getting cyber stalking messages from an antagonist known as A, who is trying to expose their secrets, because they have some, hence the term Pretty Little Liars. And we're trying to spend all of Era 1 working out who A is. I have just started Era 2 with book number 5, Wicked, and we're starting with a new A. My assumption is that every single era we're going to have a new A that comes along. Look, I think that the book series is okay. I think that book number 1 and book number 2 did take me a little while to really wrap my head around it, because the show's adaptation for what they did with for where we get up to with book 1 and where we get up to with book 2, which is, I believe, season 1, the characters are a lot more mature in the show than they are in the books, and so that did kind of throw me off a little bit. But by the time we got to book 3, they really hit their stride, and that is why this book did end up, or part of the reason why it ended up getting 5 stars. I do highly recommend reading the book series and seeing what you think of it yourself. If you love the show, give it a go. If you haven't watched the show and you love reading, give the books a go and see what you think. If you've read them, let me know what you thought. I am going to complete the first 2 eras, so up to book number 8, and then I'll see how I go with eras 3 and 4. Coming in at number 3 is the Mortal Instruments series. Now, this is very interesting that it is the Mortal Instruments series, because it literally says Shadow Hunters here, which is what I've been calling it. Other people call it Mortal Instruments, so call it what you will. I'm going to keep calling it the Shadowhunter series. I gave book 1, City of Bones, 5 stars, book 2, City of Ashes, 5 stars, and book 3, City of Glass, 4 stars. I think Cassandra Clare did a really good job. And I love the spines. I love how it's a continued pattern. I don't have that with any of my other books, so it makes me excited, and they are always up there. Well, the first 2 are up there anyway, so yeah, I'm always looking at this when I do my videos. But anyway, I think Cassandra Clare did a wonderful job. I think whoever ended up adapting the TV show did an awesome job as well. If you're a fan of the TV series, I am a massive Malik fan. I think the series is good. I can understand that a lot of people have their own complaints, but not me. I thought they were good. Even book number 3, which has my lowest rating, City of Glass, has 4 stars. 4 stars is still a good rating. One of the things I love most about Cassandra Clare is that she has epilogues in every single one of these books that I've read so far, and her epilogues are so well rounded. She makes sure to check in with all of the remaining characters to see how they all are, as opposed opposed to just leaving us on a cliffhanger. And I love that. I'm really enjoying it. I am dedicated to reading the rest of the series. I plan to read one more book in my goal setting for the remainder of the year, but now with me having set up what I'm reading between now all the way through to the end of December of 2021, spoiler alert, I'm going to finish the series by the end of the year with the first 6 books. Coming in at number 2 is the Winnie the Pooh series by A.A. Milne. I have a bit of a shout out to the other side to make, because I had been going under the assumption for quite some time that A.A. Milne was a woman, and I'm so sorry. When I was doing my editing for my favourite authors video, I was finding pictures for all the authors so I could insert them up on the screen, and that's the first time I found out that A.A. Milne is actually a man. So I'm very, very, very sorry, and I did write it in post-editing for that video that I'm sorry I thought that A.A. Milne was a woman. I'm so sorry that I thought that. If you love the Winnie the Pooh movies, whether you're talking about the classic movies, the current movies, the classic TV show or the current TV show, if you love them, then I highly recommend reading the original works. I do think that Disney fluffed up the characters a lot to make them more sweet and kind, and more like bumbling fools in a way. They come across as a lot more smart in these 2 books. Now, I am considering this series done. A.A. Milne purists would debate me on this until the cows come home, because there are officially 2 more books in the series. However, I am here to provide a rebuttal. Book number 1 and book number 2 are novels. Book number 3 and book number 4 are a set of poems. I am not a fan of poems. In fact, in my second last year of high school, I took on English literature, and I loved English literature, except for the portion on poems. I still came out of English literature not liking poems at all. So I'm not going to attempt to read books 3 and 4 because I don't want to read poems. They're just not my thing. If they're your jam, I think that's wonderful. They're just not my thing. So for me, I'm considering this series complete with books 1 and 2. They are just so much fun to read. They are warm, cozy, warm, fuzzy books to read. So if you're looking for something like that, if you've just come off some horrific, murderous, epic battle fantasy thrilling thriller and you want something just nice and sweet and comfortable, this is a great way to break up your reading, because they are just really, really beautiful stories to read with some amazing morals to each little story. I forgot to say this earlier and I've just put the books away, so I'm just going to quickly say it here. Both of those 2 books in the Winnie the Pooh collection I gave 5 stars. So, I mean, they were just both amazing. Coming in at number 1 has to be Jessica Townsend's Nevermore series. This series is just so good and we have so much to talk about, but I'm going to try and keep it as brief and succinct as I possibly can. Okay, book 1, Nevermore, 5 stars. Wonder Smith, book 2, 5 stars. I read it this month, so it generally shouldn't count because we're talking about the first half of the year, but they're both part of the same series, so I feel like I can talk about them because I've finished this book, so that works. Nevermore. Premise. We are following a girl by the name of Morrigan Crow who is born on a day that she is fated to die. It is a cursed day. All the children born on that day are going to die. At the final hour, she is with her family who treat her horribly. A man called Jupiter walks in and poses a question to her. Do you want to die? Morrigan says no. Before she can get any further, Jupiter takes her away with him to his wondrous land of Nevermore, and where she's basically comes to find out she's a refugee, and the only way to stay there is to compete in a number of trials to become a part of a society known as the Wondrous Society. So that's your book 1 premise. Book 2 continues on with the series. What I love so much about this series is that it is filled with so much whimsy and wonder. Also, a big part of the reason why it comes in at number 1 is that Jessica Townsend did not fall to the Suzanne Collins curse when it comes to the whimsy and the wonder of this world. She kept that lightning in a bottle. This book has just as much whimsy and wonder as this one. They are on par with each other, which has not happened this year. I have not had a book 1 and a book 2 that are on par with each other for just how good they are. That I just want to get lost in this world. Have you ever seen that TV show Gumby where he can just walk into books? I want to walk into either of these books and live in this world. I love the Nevermore world. But that is where I am going to leave it. What did you think of my list of series so far? Any thoughts, comments, or questions, leave them in the comment section below. But in the meantime, thank you for watching. Letting you guys go with peace, blessings, and so much love. I post videos every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I'll see you again soon. Mwah! Happy reading!